To find out why Japan's leather jackets are made to fade, I wore this as my uniform for a year straight, across every season with 4 other indigo pieces as I built my YouTube channel and company. What usually takes years happened in months, and unlike most Japanese leather jackets that fade from black to brown, this jacket fades to white, faster than any jacket, shirt, or pair of jeans I've ever seen. Each bend, every crease, wabi-sabi. Hello, I'm Jack. This is Workwear Blues, where we obsess over what to hold on to. Fast, good, or cheap, pick 2 out of 3. When Double Helix Works launched their brand 10 years ago, they could have gone with cheaper, easier to source leathers, but they swung for the fences to make a lineup entirely from horsehide. Indigo leather is rare, and I had 3 specific questions about the origin of my jacket. It's a long shot, but I reached out to the founders Jay and Matsuda for Double Helix Works, but look, I don't expect a response. Leather dyeing techniques like this are proprietary. It's very hush-hush how any Japanese brand gets the exact color for their specific horsehide. The difference compared to cowhide, my Inception horsehide belt folds and tumbles compared to my cowhide sugarcane belt, which bends and creases. Horsehide can be a little bit thicker, retain oils and dyes differently to cowhide, but the hardest problem isn't logistics at the start, it's the creative. Building something new, worthy of their brand, and with this jacket, I think they pulled it off. It's the Gold Digger in deep indigo. Looked almost black when I got it brand new. It's a classic Type 2 denim jacket design with front pleats, 2 chest pockets, 1 internal pocket, silver hardware throughout. I wear a size 40, my measurements are on screen. Like all leather jackets though, the fit improves only as you wear it. I bought mine in Japan. I'll show you where and my favorite online stockist later in the video, but it wasn't until I got back home to Australia that the fading project began. Fast, good, or cheap, pick 2 out of 3. But to launch a new leather jacket brand in Japan of all places, you have to be great. And there's no denying this is an expensive jacket. Well, is it? It's not cheap, of course. It's about $1,000 to $1,500 depending on the model. But compared to the competition, it's about 60% of the price. Real McCoy, the Flathead, Freewheelers all use the most exclusive horsehide from the most famous Shinki Japanese tannery. But Shinki has a long queue. Established brands get first choice, the thickest hides, one-off special instructions for dyeing and finishing, which affects the leather fading. More on how this works in a second. That leather isn't just good, it's great, but it's undeniably slow. And for a new brand to join the queue, it's not a great value proposition. It was spring. And how I wore it throughout that season was with the first indigo piece, a FD MTL hoodie. It's a casual look, not something I could wear to my day job, but I wore it after hours while I built my channel and company. It's a YouTube channel, online education business, and I started out making a few videos for fun. And out of fast, good, and cheap, how many did I have at the start? 9 to 5 during the day, the rest of the night on my own company, wearing this jacket to film, edit, test new equipment. That's how the creases set in so quickly. But it hadn't faded yet, they wouldn't appear for a while yet. Early on, it was just at a few high friction points. The edge of the cuffs, points to the collars, and I saw this on the hoodie as well. Down the front zip of the hoodie, edge of the hood, which rubbed against the top of the back collar of this leather jacket, the hoodie has a gentle, low contrast fade. This deep indigo horsehide would have more contrast. Double Helix sourced their horsehide from a different tannery, Nita, and unlike most Japanese leather jackets, fade from black to brown. This jacket fades to white. It's a process called tea-core. The leather is first dyed brown, the color of tea if you like, then dyed black on top so that as you wear it, the top black layer wears away slowly. I used to own a secondhand Flathead Shinki jacket with 2 years of wear from the previous owner already, and all the creases had set in, but there was still not a hint of brown in sight. So I'm guessing they asked the tannery to change the ratio of brown to black dye, as well as the thickness of the horsehide. You can do the tea-core process with any leather technically, and apparently Shinki Tannery is getting into fish leather next. Sounds crazy. But there's something about horsehide that's a perfect match for tea-core. There's a dull sheen, a smooth grain pattern that tumbles and folds rather than bends or creases. To me, it's a beautiful canvas for colors to fade. Into summer, I couldn't wear so many layers. So the second indigo piece I wore that season, along with this jacket, is the Tanuki HSS Heavy Shinkai Indigo t-shirt. It's quite a slim fitting t-shirt. I wear a size medium. And what started out deep indigo started to fleck off in bits and pieces throughout the t-shirt over months of wear. I wore the tee by itself or pair with that jacket. That's how I got through the season. Luckily, most of the work I was doing wearing the jacket happened at night when it's cooler. If I wanted to prioritize fast and good, of course it wouldn't be cheap, and the most expensive part was my time. I found out this is called the valley of death for most creators or small businesses. Investing all that time, more so than money, is a big deal. It's the same for indigo and fading. I spent that summer setting up my home studio. Back and forth to the hardware store, finding bits and pieces to set up desks, tables, and chairs. I kept my house keys in my top left jacket pocket. That's the first part of the jacket. I saw a dramatic fade. The keys had left its mark, along with the studio being finished. Things were looking optimistic. Then the cyclone hit. I bought my deep indigo gold digger from Ueno in Tokyo. It's a shop called Hakodaido, a 10-minute walk away from Ueno Station down Ame-Yokocho. It's a great area for seafood, sake, and street fashion. It's definitely worth a visit if you're there. They have a really big selection of double helix works. Now there are more options. My favorite retailers I've bought from online before personally: Blue Owl Workshop, Redcast Heritage, and Cultism, not just for leather jackets but for denim and accessories as well. These stockers aren't based in my country. In Australia, Urahara is the only one that I've seen, but they've got a limited selection and they sell out very quickly. That's why when I bought my second double helix works jacket, 6 months after buying this deep indigo one in person, I bought it online through Double Helix's website directly. It was easy enough. Everything's made to order, and it took exactly 45 days for my jacket to arrive. The light indigo gold digger. The color is beautiful. The fit is identical to this deep indigo. I bought both in a size 40, but it is much more of a statement piece. The deep indigo is more wearable every day for me. And by the end of that summer, putting this jacket on had become my daily habit. Until the cyclone hit. A week of rain capped off by an overnight flood. All the work I put into building the home studio was obsolete. My plans for expansion were written off along with my floors, furniture, and half of my wardrobe. The half that was saved, stored on higher shelves in my closet, and what I was wearing every day. This jacket. Good, fast, or cheap, there's 0 out of 3. And through it all, I wore this jacket every day in the fall. This brings me to our recurring channel segment, 3x3 plus 1. 3 shirts, 3 pants, 3 different pairs of shoes, plus 1 bonus item to come up with 10 fits, all centered around this leather jacket. The leather jacket is a bit of a statement piece. I try to keep everything else more conservative and understated. Fit 1 relies on this Brooks Brothers Oxford cloth button down, pair of Uniqlo navy chinos. These are slim, not skinny, paired with a quarter-band chucker boots from Alden. Fit 2 swaps out the chuckers for navy Carmina jodhpurs. I can add a knit tie from Drake's to class it up a little. That knit tie is still a casual tie as far as ties go. Fit 3 swaps out the navy chinos for dark olive baker's pants from Samurai Denim. Olive, blue, indigo, black, all muted colors that offset the casual nature of the leather jacket. Fit 4 swaps out the OCBD for a chambray shirt from Studio de Artisan. Slightly heavier, more textured fabric, dresses down the outfits more, which I can dress back up by changing the shoes. In Fit 5, I go back to these Alden chuckers. They've lasted me a very long time. Fit 6 swapped out the chuckers with a pair of Paraboot Michael Darby's. It's the most popular internet dressy shoe, both to the office and off the clock. It looks appropriate. Fits 7, 8, and 9 all center around a Wabush indigo worker pant, the longshoreman from Freewheelers. These are the most casual pants from the bunch. In a modern straight fit, they work with my Carmina jodhpurs in Fit 7, the Paraboot Michael in Fit 8, and the Alden chuckers in Fit 9. These are very versatile despite their casual workwear nature. But the last item in Fit 9 is also the indigo piece I wore the most that fall, along with this leather jacket, my UBS heavyweight indigo flannel shirt. The fabric is thick but soft. It's worn in beautifully like an old jumper or cardigan. It's faded along the cuffs, the shirt placket, a very similar wear pattern to this leather jacket actually. It's more intense on my right shoulder where I wear my Wortencraft sling bag to work, and the bag sits on my left hip, so the left side of the jacket and the bottom is more faded than the right. There is one fit left. Fit 10, the one I wore the most last year actually with this jacket, but for that I'll need one more indigo piece. Fall was a hard season. I set up 3 temporary office studios, even built one out of my closet, all to keep the business afloat at night. Out of fast, good, and cheap, I'd be lucky to have 1 out of 3. And that's when I realized why most people don't do this. Starting something new, your own business, is very lonely. Working all through the night, restoring my office, that's when a nail scratched my jacket sleeve. Right past the layers of indigo dye, you can see the leather core is still pure pristine white. How did Double Helix do this? This leather really is rare. I haven't seen anything else like it. Y2 Leathers has their indigo leather. The core doesn't look anywhere near as white as Double Helix's version. Strum is another Japanese leather brand I stumbled on recently. The founder looks super cool. I haven't handled their indigo leather personally, though it looks a shade lighter than Double Helix's light indigo version. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen any other indigo leather jackets on the market. I'm always keen to hear about new brands and wow. They got back to me. Jay and Matsuda, the founders of Double Helix. I had 3 specific questions about this jacket. 1, why is indigo leather so rare? The challenge lies in creating a pale indigo leather with a white core. Balancing the process so the surface takes the indigo while the core remains light is technically demanding, which is why few brands attempt it. Question 2, deep indigo leather and a light indigo leather, which is harder for them to make? Deep indigo is much more popular with customers who prefer a darker, more classic denim tone, ages with higher contrast. The light indigo though, that's their personal favorite. The aging is very expressive because the lighter tone reveals the white core more dramatically. This jacket has since faded more dramatically than any other piece of clothing I own. So my third question for Jay and Matsuda was, do I have to worry about conditioning the leather and leather care? Our leathers contain significant natural oils, so consistent conditioning is usually unnecessary unless the jacket is stored for a long period of time without wear. If you wanted to apply something, a thin layer of mink oil or mild leather conditioner is fine and won't harm the indigo. I'm wearing this jacket every day through relaying the floors, putting in sound panels, a new desk, lights, furniture. My office space is better than it ever was, but it took so much. The space and the jacket faded along with me. Into winter, which is when I stumbled onto an article about Bape. I remember seeing it everywhere in Tokyo about 10 years ago. In the last few years, I've not seen it anywhere. Too much, too soon. And in winter, I wore it under another jacket, my Buzz Rickson M65. Slow and steady wins the race. I'm happy being a one-man band for the time being. Slowly but surely, the jacket faded. Every time I picked up the camera to take a photo, to make a video, my arms creased. Every time I was responding to an email, editing a video, especially around the back, my elbows rubbed against the armchair and the desk. I'm right-handed, so this is way more apparent on my right side than my left side. It's crazy how these arm honeycombing happened over time. Coupled with the fading around the pleats, pockets, the back adjusters, collar, shoulders, this fade is completely unique to me. This jacket's been through everything with me. It's why Japan's leather jackets are made to fade with you, the beauty of wabi-sabi. Though I have the light indigo jacket ready to go, this deep indigo jacket isn't done. There's still so much more to do to grow my business and my day job. I need to fade both sides equally. This shouldn't take long. This is the fastest fading item of clothing I've ever owned. Actually, that's not true. It's the second fastest fading item. What's the fastest? The last indigo item I paired with this jacket in Fit 10, this pair of pure blue Japan double indigo selvage denim. I've since retired these jeans and moved on to the next, but along the way I made every mistake imaginable fading these PBJs. They still turned out beautifully despite all my dumb mistakes. I'm Jack. This is Workwear Blues.